the meeting. So meeting adjourned. Opened. Call to order. And with that, will you join me in the flag salute, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additions to the agenda tonight?
No.
Okay. Are there any declarations of ex-parte contact, conflict of interest, bias, etc.? I don't hear any. This is an opportunity for public comment. And before we get to the public comment, I think there's two distinctions tonight. One of the public comments is just general public testimony. And the other one, I think, is going to be testimony to the annexation discussion on the agenda. So with that, I'm going to start with just the open public comment. And with that, we'll start with Dan Harrington. But before we do that, I'm going to read a statement. The council will now receive public comment. We value their time and initiative members of the public take to share their thoughts with the council. The council's role during public comment is not to immediately respond, but to listen. If there's a follow-up necessary, we will direct city staff to do so. Remember that we all model the way for our community, and we ask that everyone share their thoughts respectfully. Those who have completed a request for recognition form will be called one at a time to step forward and turn on their cameras and mics, etc., and state their name and city of residence. Please note that speakers will have 3 minutes to express their thoughts, and that's for the open comments. And Dan, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. My name's Dan Farrington. I live at 523 Northwest Heather Place, Sublimity, Oregon. My wife and I moved out here 2 years ago from South Salem. I've been a high school baseball coach for 45 years, went from South Salem and retired and came out to the valley here, so to speak, the canyon. I've been a business owner for 21 years. I've created 2 businesses from scratch. And build them up. And now currently in the last 3 years, I do business development for small businesses throughout Oregon from Woodburn to Roseburg. So I'm in every business from 1 employee to 150 working on business development. Also on the side, I do mentoring at the UGM of Salem, mentoring men that come off the streets. They have a program called the New Life Fellowship Program, in which I'm actively involved. Also on the board for Be Bold Street Ministries that actually goes into homeless camps and gets them off the streets into the right recovery, but also in housing to get them productive back in society. And also on the board for Valor Mentoring. Actually, it's meeting now with the Teen Center about working with them. And so I'm actively involved in that. My wife's a retired RN and works with homeschoolers and getting churches and homeschoolers connected. So we're very active in our house about helping kids and helping them be successful. And I think when we have boundaries and we have expectations, kids perform. And I'm running for House District 17. Ed Deal endorsed me. He came and asked me if I'd run in his spot about 5 weeks ago. And I've been running for about the last 4 weeks. I gave you a poem of my background a little bit and a website. If I'm okay to leave some of these in the back for people to take on the way out, that would be great. If you had any questions, happy to answer them.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Mr. Araba, please.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, City staff, and community. My name is Nicholas Raba. I live here in Stayton. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Parks and Pool Levy, Measure 24-518. First, I want to thank the City Council and City staff for the work that went into revising this measure after the last election. The community noticed the effort to listen to feedback, reduce the proposed rate, and refine the levy to focus on maintaining the parks and pool services that matter most to our residents. Over the past several months, I've been working with a growing group of volunteers and community members, helping share information about why our parks and pool are so important to Stayton residents. This group includes parents, swimmers, walkers, runners, coaches, and residents who believe these spaces are part of what makes our town such a special place to live. Every day, our parks and pool are used by people across our community. Families gather in our parks, kids play on the playgrounds and sports fields, walkers and runners use our paths, and community events bring neighbors together. The Stayton Family Memorial Pool is especially important. Local swim teams train there, families gather there all year round, and every year, Stayton third graders learn how to swim. These programs help give our kids confidence in the water and teaches life-saving safety skills. As part of our outreach efforts, volunteers have also submitted statements in favor of Measure 24-518 that will appear in the Marion County voter pamphlet. Community members also have the opportunity to endorse these statements at no cost. Our current levy expires June 2026. Without a replacement, the town will face a significant funding gap for parks and pool operations. There may be several items on the ballot this election, but this is one measure that cannot wait. There isn't another opportunity without consequences for our parks and pool our community values. If residents want to learn more to get involved, we encourage them to visit StaytonParksandPool.com. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Mr. Raba. Rebecca Rakes.
Do I need to push anything? No, it's already on. Okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Rebecca Rakes. I am a resident of Stayton. I am here today to talk about the importance of passing the Parks and Pool levy and funding our parks and pool. Sorry. Stayton is home to several beautiful parks. Over the years that I've lived in this community, I have personally seen our parks regularly host events including but not limited to school outings, weddings, birthday parties, memorial services, disc golf games, and general family use. Stayton also has a beautiful community pool where students from 4 different swim teams practice their competitions. Local elderly and disabled people attend water exercise classes. All third graders attend swim lessons that are generously funded by the local Kiwanis Club. And private swim lessons are available seasonally, and open public swim is also open and available for families, well-being, and entertainment. I know that it isn't only the local or schools and families residing in Stayton proper who are utilizing our parks and pools. People are also coming from neighboring communities, which not only benefits the parks and pool by providing more income from rentals and day use fees, but it also benefits the whole community because those visitors are stopping by local gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, and shops, which provides more income potential to all local businesses. Many people don't realize how much time and effort goes into maintaining community parks and pools. Without proper funding, the city won't be able to employ people to mow and maintain park grounds, empty garbage cans, clean and stock bathrooms, or maintain and replace park seating and play equipment. The pool won't be able to purchase chemicals for safe water maintenance and provide staffing or maintain the rest of the facilities. In Oregon, community facilities such as parks, pools, libraries, and capital improvements can only be funded through levies and bonds approved by voters because of the statewide property tax limits created when Measure 50 passed back in the late 1990s. It's imperative that citizens are educated on this and fully understand that when the previous levy expires in June, without a yes vote on the new levy, the city will have no other choice but to close the parks or the pool and defund park maintenance. If we care about keeping the parks and pool available and in good repair, we must do everything possible to help people understand the devastating effects of defunding them and not passing the levy. Thank you for your time, and congratulations to the students who are being acknowledged tonight for their hard work and dedication to their education. Your community is proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else before I move on that wants to talk about open general testimony? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda tonight. what would council like to do for February 17th, City Council regular session minutes? February 19th, City Council and Planning Commission joint work session minutes. March 2nd, City Council and Public Arts Commission joint work session minutes. March 2nd, City Council work session minutes. I think, Council Work, do you want to?
I do. Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we pull, item E, the resolution number 26-007, authorizing a change order with Canyon Construction, Inc., off of the consent agenda, and so we can discuss it on the main agenda.
And that would be under general business, so we'll do the annexation
Okay.
and then under general business.
I will second.
Councilor Carey, okay. There's a motion and a second to remove letter E from the consent agenda, which is resolution number 26-007.
And just for clarification, to remove stuff from the consent agenda, you don't need a second. It just is
Okay.
done. If anybody wants it removed,
Thank you.
it's
Thanks
removed.
for the reminder. We'll move that to general business then. So let me reiterate the consent agenda again. February 17th, City Council regular session minutes. February 19th, City Council and Planning Commission minutes. March 2nd, City Council and Public Arts Commission minutes. March 2nd, City Council work session minutes. And then resolution number 26-008, reappointment and new appointment of members to various boards and commissions.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort,
I move that we accept the consent agenda as revised.
Seconded.
okay, there's a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as revised. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort,
I just want to take a moment to thank the new appointed members and the members who are choosing to be reappointed to our boards and commissions. Your work and help is very vital to what we do up here. So thank you.
agreed. Okay. All right. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Okay. This is presentations. And this is where I take the stage for a minute. As you all know, there was a contest out there, and it's covered statewide. It's called If I Were Mayor contest. This is an opportunity for students in our community to put their creative thoughts together and tell me and the rest of the council what they would do if they were in my seat up here. And it's been going on for about 3 years now, I think. And we've struggled a little bit over the years with participation. I got to tell you, this year we had 11 or 12. What was it, Howard? 12? 11 entries. So phenomenal job for turning out and telling me what you think you would do as you're sitting up here. I went through this and I struggled with this a little bit because all the entries were so creative and so just amazing. I had Julia with me and I'm looking at it and saying, look at all these creative ideas and the kids that want to come up and they're coming up the ranks and look what they could do and their potential. So it was really cool. So let me just give you a couple of the judging criteria. One of them was creativity. Does the student demonstrate curiosity and originality? The other one was clarity, sincerity of thought. Is the submission well thought out and organized? Proper use of grammar. Does the submission contain proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation? And this is the one that really was amazing. Subject relevancy. Are the major points relevant to the role of government leader? Does the student demonstrate an understanding of municipal government and the job of mayor? And I will tell you that we had entries from both the middle school and from the grade school, correct? So the grade school kids were tasked with drawing a picture, essentially. And we had 2 students in there that drew pictures, and they were really neat, really creative. And the individual that I selected from those is Aubrey Davis. And let me tell you what Aubrey had to say. She has a picture, and I'll show everybody this picture. Really cool. And her thoughts were, there would be places for people to face their fears and take responsibility. There would be more farmland. Kids would be given the opportunity to take responsibility of having kinder and friendly jobs. Oh, I'm sorry, kid-friendly jobs. There would be community gardens and places to hang out and enjoy nature. There would be less littering. There would be fundraisers for more nature retreats. And so, Aubrey, awesome job. Come on up here, friend.
Mayor. I think the mayor would like to invite her up to get her certificate. And then Mayor Quigley also failed to mention that the winners get an award. So she's getting a $50 gift card. And then her teacher is also going to get a $50 gift card for to spend on the classroom. We'll give her teacher her card. Not that we don't trust you. Good job.
All right, before we go on to the next one, I just want to tell everybody that the theme of the entries were really kindness was one thing, was huge for everybody. I think that the kids recognize what's going on in our community. They recognize some of the social issues. Homelessness was a big thing for everybody. There was a lot of discussion about safe sidewalks to school, walking to school, and really having the kids look out for one another and having an ability to get there without cars impeding them or getting in their way. Just amazing stuff that was out there. I mean, they were talking about the parks, the pools, a lot of themes on what current events are today. So great job, everybody, doing that. The next one is the middle school students. And this one, and I think I just read to you all the relevancy. The one that really set this one off for me was the subject relevancy on the criteria. This individual took the time and effort to really walk through step by step what they would do if they were mayor. They told me what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, and why they think that things were good that they were doing. And this person is Ezekiel Alvarez Perez. He did an awesome job with this communication. So where is Ezekiel? He's in the back.
Ezekiel,
He's in the back.
come on up. And the sixth to eighth graders, their award is actually a $100 gift card and $100 for the teacher. And for all the high school students in the crowd, if there is an essay, a video portion, which we did not get any entries into, but if we had gotten video entries, the award for that is $150 and $150 to the sponsoring teacher. So just think about that for next year.
So I want to, again, appreciate all the kids that participated in this, and really, we got some good kids in the future coming up the ranks, and they can really have an impact on what the community they live in and work. So be great. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. And with that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is, I know, student recognition. That's why you are sitting here. This is one of the most popular events of the council, I think. So, Julia, how are we going to do this?
So I'm getting advice from my side. What are we wanting to do?
Have everybody come to the front to be in the picture.
I think that would be fun. So we're going to ask all the counselors to come up to the front. I'm going to read the name, and then the student will come up and get their certificate from Mayor Quigley. And then I think we'll have you stand up there. And then when we're done, we'll get a picture of that class or that school. This is Regis, and then we'll do Stayton High School next.
Okay, so what are we recognizing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. We are recognizing students who received a 4.0 in the first semester of school. And Melanie, we've got a number from Regis here this evening, but we also, she's got notes for me and everything. Look at that. Regis High School had 64 students with a 4.0 GPA. Last year, there were only 30, so
Wow.
way to go. And we have a number here this evening to recognize. So if you guys
Okay.
want to come up, I'll read the
Sure.
name and then we can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just as a reminder, don't go back to your seat until your administrator or whoever wants to take pictures of you has taken pictures of you.
Yeah, and just for the notice, I know some of the folks that are being recognized tonight also reside in Sublimity. Mayor Taylor couldn't be here tonight, but he absolutely gives his appreciation as well. So,
Okay. Without further ado, I think. All right. So our first 4.0 student recognition is for Callista Anglin. Callista Anglin. And then we have Grant Dolby. Stuart McLaughlin. William Miotki. Ava Spencer. Harper Stoops. And Vivian Tran. All right. You do it.
So any administrators for Regis that wants to come be in a picture with council in the group, now's your time. Come over with council.
All right, now we're going to move on to the Stayton High School. This year, we had 97 students from Stayton High School with a 4.0 or higher GPA. And I just want to point out that Mayor Quigley and I had to sign all of these, just FYI. Last year, we had 73, so another great job with students performing better than before. Okay, our first one is, Zenea Anderson. Zuri Anderson. Elena Castillo. Jonathan Davis. Caden Dean. Molly Emmert. Miles Emmert. Zachary Flett. Titus Ford. Faith Fortune. Oliver Hunt. Madison Jones. I'm going to do my best on this one. Ulita Cohen. Bethany Marcelino. Mason Silbernagel. Landon Springer. Treya Urquhart. And Dale Young. Daniel Young. Sorry, Daniel. I know.
Come on, guys.
Council Carey, don't you have something to tell the kids? Last year you told them you don't have to stay. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Nope.
I know.
Did we miss somebody? We didn't miss anybody, did we?
The rest of you here can move up.
Jeez. All right.
The rest of you can move up to the front. I'm joking.
All right. Thank you for that. That was always a fun time. Let's go to item number 7, which is the public hearing. Ordinance number 26-002, annexing real property located at 9164 Golf Club Road, 9384 Golf Club Road, and 9474 Golf Club Road, the portion of existing public right-of-way along Golf Club Road, and changing the zone from Marion County Urban Transitional to City of Stayton Medium Density Residential. And we will do the commencement of the public hearing. This is the time and place set for the City Council's public hearing in the matter of land use file number 16-12-/24, an application for annexation for 3 parcels approximately 59.6 acres with access from Golf Course Road, proposing a zoning designation of medium-density residential. This hearing is now open. Oregon land use law requires a statement be made to those in attendance that covers certain matters relative to this case. That statement, with all the information required to be presented under ORS 197-763(5), is printed and available on the table at the back of the room. If you have not yet received one of these forms, you should go get one and review it prior to presenting your testimony. If anyone has any questions regarding anything on the statement or objects to it not being read out loud, please raise those questions when it comes to your turn to speak during the hearing. Also at the back counter is the agenda for this evening's meeting, which lays out the order in which people will be called on to speak during the public hearing, and the city's rules of procedure for land use public hearings to facilitate your participation in the public hearing. You are encouraged to obtain and read a copy of these documents as well. At this time, I would ask the audience if there are any objections to the notice that was provided in the case. I hear none. To the jurisdiction of this body to hear and consider this case. I hear none. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, ex-party contact, or bias by any members of the council? I hear none. We are now ready for the staff introduction with Jennifer.
Do I need to? Oh, okay. Okay. So good evening, Mayor and City Council. For the record, my name is Jennifer Siciliano. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Stayton. Before you tonight is ordinance number 26-002, which is a request to annex 3 parcels of property located along the east side, excuse me, of Golf Club Road of approximately 59.6 acres into the City of Stayton and apply the medium-density residential designation consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. This matter comes before the City Council tonight as a public hearing following review by the Planning Commission and their recommendation on the annexation request. After the applicant's presentation, I will return with a staff report summarizing the application, the review process, the applicable annexation criteria, and the Planning Commission's recommendation. And now it's the applicant's presentation.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mark Grins.
Can you pull it up towards you, Mark, a little bit? There you go. It was on. It was on. Now you turned it off. It was on. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Again, my name is Mark Grins. I'm with Multitech Engineering. Our office is at 1155 13th Street Southeast in Salem, and we're representing the applicants in this annexation request that's before you tonight. As staff pointed out, that this is slightly over 59 acres of land in the northern part of the community. So it's out there on the east side of Golf Club Road, and it's the last of the large developable land that's out in that part of town. This piece has some natural resource elements to it on the eastern boundary that with the development of this site, it's intended that the majority of that will be preserved through the development. Your housing needs analysis has denoted that the community needs additional housing, single family and higher density housing to be provided to meet your goals. And of course, that's the governor has set out for all communities that her intention to have as much additional housing as can be created in order to help provide more affordable housing for the state. So this property falls in line with that we don't have a finalized development plan yet for the property, but it looks like we'll be able to develop around 126 to 130 lots on that, depending on how it finally comes down. The property is relatively flat. There's an existing sanitary sewer trunk line that runs through the property, and the city has a pump station that sits there next to Golf Club Road. That's going to be adjacent to the development, so that service is available. This property will extend a 12-inch water line from the existing city limits on Shaft Road to the north to service the property. So water service will be able to be provided. The property will create stormwater facilities to provide water quality and quantity controls as part of the development. So that it will restrict and limit the amount of runoff that comes off of this site to its pre-developed flow rates after development is completed. There will be some traffic improvements made on Golf Club Road along the frontage that will include left turn pockets in order to facilitate safe traffic maneuvers into the project off Golf Club Road, and it will be fairly compatible with the area out there. I know that the majority of the area out there is still rural in Marion County, but it will be compatible. Residential will be compatible with that. It does involve the extension, the inclusion of the annexation of a portion of Golf Club right away from the existing city limits in order to get out to the property, and that's been worked out with staff and your legal staff to make sure that that's approach is acceptable. So I think that's a summary of our application. It's pretty straightforward for the community here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have of me at this time. I'm sure I'll get an opportunity to come back up here in summary. So.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
Council, there's quite a bit of background information associated with this application, so please bear with me as I walk through the major points. The subject properties consist, as I said, of 59.6 acres. I'd like to clarify that why two parcels appear to be only partially included. It's because they've only been recently partitioned in Marion County, and the assessor has not updated the tax lot numbers when the application was submitted. The property is currently located, as we said, in the urban growth boundary. It is zoned urban transition in Marion County. The request tonight is that the city annex it as a medium density residential, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is important to note that the original application included an annexation request and a subdivision proposal. However, the applicant formally withdrew the subdivision portion of the application. If the property is annexed, any future development would require additional land use reviews, including subdivision approval, evaluation of stormwater, transportation impacts, utility, and other development standards. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on January 26, 2026, and February 23, 2026, and reviewed the application materials and testimony and unanimously recommended approval of the annexation. So under the municipal code, the council must make an affirmative finding that several criteria are satisfied in order to approve an annexation. So I'll briefly summarize the staff's findings. Community need is the first criteria. It requires that needs exist in the community for the land proposed to be annexed. In the city's comprehensive plan and the 2013 buildable lands inventory, evaluate the amount of residential land needed to accommodate projected population growth. At the time the analysis was conducted, the city had approximately 106 acres of vacant buildable residential land. And the projection estimate that the city would need 1,281 additional dwelling units by 2030, which would roughly require 320 additional acres. Since this analysis was completed, approximately 60 acres of residential land have been annexed, and the number of residential developments have incurred. Based on those projections, the city continues to have a need for additional housing, particularly single-family home and duplex units. The proposed annexation of medium density would allow these housing types and therefore contributes towards the city's identified housing needs. The second criteria is adequate public services. The site can be made capable of served by adequate public services while the property is not currently connected to the city utilities. The city's adopted master plans, that includes the transportation system plan, water master plan, stormwater master plan, and wastewater facilities plan, all have included this area to be serviced. At the time of development, the applicant would require to construct or extend necessary infrastructure to meet city standards. This would include probably roadway improvements to Golf Club Road, construction of Golf Lane Collector Street, stormwater management, water systems, and sanitary connections. The planning board indicated that these required improvements could adequately be served by city infrastructure in the future. The next criteria is continuity. The third criterion requires that the annexation territory be contiguous to the city, and although the subject parcels do not directly touch the city boundary, continuity is established through inclusion of Golf Club Road right-of-way. The southern portion of the right-of-way connects directly to the property that is already in city limits, creating a continuous connection. Criteria D, compatibility with surrounding area. The fourth criteria requires that the annexation be compatible with the surrounding area and consistent with the city's urban growth policies. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character, with residential development located east-southwest of the property. And of course, the north is developed as a golf course. Let's see, applying the medium density residential is consistent with the designation and supports the city's planned pattern of residential growth. Criterion E is that it complies with state law, which it does. The owners have consented to the annexation, and the territory lies within the urban growth boundary. The last criterion is a contract annexation, which does not apply in this case. Notice of the proposal was provided to effective agencies, including utilities, Marion County, ODOT, the Fire District, Santiam Hospital, North Santiam School District, and comments were received. Traffic impact analysis is not required for annexation, but future development, it would be required, and ODOT and the school district all said in their comments that they would be, that they would be commenting on future development, but that they have no comments for annexation. Several written comments were submitted during Planning Commission process. Many of the concerns expressed by the members of the public related to potential future development of the property, including infrastructure, traffic, build-out assumptions. These are understandable, that the community concerns. However, many of those issues are typically addressed during later development process, such as subdivision, rather than during annexation stage. The Development of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD CD also submitted written comments. They encouraged the city to consider the state's updated Oregon housing needs analysis when evaluating the residential zoning and housing needs. They actually provided details on what our housing needs, and they said our housing units are 1,070. We're needed in the next 20 years. It's kind of complicated, but they provided different units for different AMI, which is area median income. And our area median income for last year was 86,500. And the day I received the comments was the day that the Planning Commission had their hearing. And I had asked them the next day, can you explain what actually units are needed? So what duplexes, what single family, because it wasn't clear here. And I have a meeting with them next week. They weren't able to meet until next week. So just to let you know that I am having that conversation. I think it's the 26th. We also, the city attorney also reviewed some testimony that was submitted in opposition. He noted that many of concerns raised relate primarily to future development rather than annexation itself. He indicated that while development of the property may require significant infrastructure investment, that cost alone does not necessarily make the property incapable of being served by city services if the applicant is willing to fund the required improvements. The city attorney also noted that Oregon case law generally supports contiguous proposed by this annexation. So although the parcels do not directly touch, it is established through the golf club road right away, sometimes referred as a cherry stem. And Oregon courts and LUBA have recognized that that is a valid method of establishing continuity. He also said questions relating to older housing data. I had mentioned that the building analysis is from 2013. In themselves is typically not sufficient grounds to deny an annexation. So staff has reviewed the annexation application against the approval criteria in the code and has prepared the findings. Thank you for listening to this. I know it's long and drawn out, but I've got a lot of comments and wanted to answer as much as I could. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Questions from the council? Councilor Ort?
Mr. Mayor, I have several questions.
Go
So I
ahead.
don't know if I can ask one and then let you guys out there ask. Okay. One of my biggest questions, and this is maybe for a Barry question. It was stated in our last work session that at times we're exceeding our wastewater, like the amount of wastewater that can come into our facility. How will this impact that issue? Will we have to raise fees on our current tax base to compensate because we can't use our SDCs to deal with maintenance issues that we currently have?
It's on? See, this one goes green. The other one went red. Anyway, I would like you to clarify the question, if you don't mind, just so that I can answer directly.
Okay, so my concern is this potentially, again, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but with this 59 acres and potentially 120 to 130 homes being put on there, are we going to be able to service them with our current wastewater treatment system as it stands? That's one question. And then two, are we going to have to increase our rates on our current residents to allow this development to happen?
Okay, fair question. The way that the master plans are actually established, it assumes that we're building to our urban growth boundaries. That means that whatever we add within our urban growth boundary, the master plan should be adopting and registering that. As it stands today, as I explained in our work session, our normal discharge for our wastewater is around about 1.5 MGD, between 1 and 1.5 MGD. A new system, as this is being proposed, is a relatively small impact on that overall 1.5 MGD. We would assume, and we would be very consistent as far as the construction is concerned, that we would not be adding significant I&I to our overall issue. So to answer your question directly, yes, our existing system is designed to, in actual fact, accommodate and take on board what is being operated or proposed under this annexation. But we would review it in detail. As Jennifer's already said, the annexation doesn't absolutely mean that development would move forward. The annexation only allows the boundary to change so that it's inside the city limits. And once we get the development plan in place and know what the developer is in actual fact going to do, we would review that in detail to make sure that we could accommodate, and that would be the time that we'd make some alterations if necessary.
Okay, can I just ask a clarifying and follow-up question to that? So the master plan is assuming that our system is working in a certain way.
Correct.
And we know that we have some issues
Correct.
with the way that it is working. So with the way that it is working, not the way that it should be working, because if you're looking at it on paper and you're like, oh yeah, so this plus this will equal what we need. The way that it is actually working with our I&I issues and the things that we have, is this going to increase the burden? I know you said that it's insignificant, but we have issues that need to be addressed.
That is correct. And if you look at the bigger overall picture of the city, we're currently servicing about 2,800 connections as it stands today. And we're adding, Jennifer, 130 to this. Is that correct, roughly?
Well, it wasn't actually proposed, but that's what their concept.
I think that's what Mark said, was somewhere around 130 additional connections. So yes, there is a contribution, a significant contribution in percentage terms in that sense, but we should be covering that and fixing the overall bigger problem across the city in any case, irrespective of whether the annexation occurs or not.
Thank you.
Councillor Patty.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Barry, for being here. I had kind of a speculative question, and if you'll indulge me on this. So after we annex that plot over there to the east of Foothills Church, it's still sitting, waiting for development. Do we feel like this is going to be kind of the same situation, or do you have any idea based on what you're seeing here?
Quite honestly, I really don't have an idea as how quickly the development will move forward, or any development will move forward. Annexation, all it does, as I just said a minute ago, is put the boundary out for the city limits around that piece of land so that it can be developed.
Jennifer, I have a couple of questions. When has the population projections ever been correct in the comp plan?
I don't know if they've ever been, but there definitely there was a lot of growth projected that did not happen.
Correct. And I think I would tell you that those false projections are not something we should base our dissemination on. The second question is the AMI thing you mentioned, that's not even pertinent to the discussion about annexation, correct? I mean, it's not a criteria for approval
It-
and annexation.
So one of the criteria is the community need, and it sounds like that's vague, but it really isn't vague. It's based on buildable lands inventory that I had mentioned, and so
Yeah, which is,
DLCD gave me a letter that said that the state requires the needs to be based on. I'm just getting it right now. That it needs to be based on, according to a new law or a law from 2023, that it needs to be, the housing needs to be based on something that the Department of Administrative Services puts out once a year. So in January 1st this year, they put out a list of how many homes are needed. And instead of breaking it down by single family, duplex, triplex, etc., it broke it down to how many units per a certain income level. And that is, so they've said that Stayton should look at this, that this is how they should base their need. And I said, well, that's not very clear. Can you clarify it? And so
okay.
I'm going to be talking to them next week.
Right. But granted, that's not part of the current criteria for approval.
I'll just chime in here. I think it's probably more relevant to future annexation applications you're going to see because in those, staff was recommending a lower density than what the applicant was proposing. In this case, what staff is recommending or basically saying meets the criteria. So it's relevant to all the annexations, but I think it's more of an issue when the applicant is proposing a higher density, because in those other annexations, Jennifer was relying on the buildable lands inventory to justify the lower density. So you'll hear more about this going forward.
One more question. So Councilor Patty asked about the annexation to the property east of the Foothills Church. I asked before, do you take that potential development there in consideration when you're counting the number of houses available?
I did not, and I talked to Ross, our attorney, and he said that you don't count that. But that's obviously something that exists.
It's I have a problem with this because it's buildable land, and just because it's not built on now doesn't mean it's not available. We should be considering those potential number of units in there because we know there was a plot at one point, so we know how many units can fit in that piece of property. So.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a follow-up to that?
Go ahead, Councilor.
Did Ross explain why we don't take that into consideration?
Not that I recall, but he did bring it up at the workshop that we had with the Joint Planning Commission.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Hayes.
I have a question in regards to the schools. This plays a big part in that and what they can handle. It's also been my experience in the past for as long as I've lived in the state, and trying to get a new school built is near impossible. And most people don't want to pay for that. So what we've seen is our existing schools still expanding to what they can. Can you enlighten on any of that? Whether our schools are prepared for this?
So I'm going to take that one. Just and we did mention this probably towards the very end of the training session. But schools and school capacity is not a criterion that we can base annexations on. It's really the criteria that are in the code. The school district is responsible for planning for their schools. We communicate with them and coordinate with them, but that's their responsibility and not a factor that the council can be considering in your annexation decision.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ort.
I have a follow-up to that. I completely understand what you're saying. I just had a question on, like, so it says in here, we asked these bodies and they responded, but we're not getting the responses in here. So, like it said, we asked and the schools they had a question about whether or not bus service was going to go out there, but then there was no, and then this was what it said. or like there was one that said there was a public comment during the planning commission meeting, but it's not in here. So is it possible, like for these, can we get that information? Like, I'm just curious, like what did the fire department say, or what did ODOT say? It's not in.
Okay. Whatever they commented on is in your packet. So sometimes
Sorry, I missed it. I was looking for it.
Mm-hmm. If I did reach out to all these different agencies, and sometimes they didn't respond. Some of them didn't respond, but some of them just made like a quick email. I don't have it here, but I know that I included it, all the comments. And regarding like school bus stops that the school mentioned, that's more That's more when it comes for development. And a lot of there were several people that commented at the planning commission, and I'm going to say most of the comments were related to development. So it's not related to annexation. I think the criteria that you look at is the housing inventory that we were talking about, the continuity of the cherry stem, and the services is the meat of the criteria.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Hort.
can I ask a clarifying question on that? Because I hear what staff is saying, that it's not applicable, but also at the same time, I feel like it is applicable, because it's like we have to vote it in, and then what if we vote this property in and then it actually doesn't, we figure out that it can't be serviced by utilities, and the school can't service the students that are there, and the fire department can't serve. What do we do with it then? Then it's property in this city.
So I'm going to just chime in just because my mic's on. Our master plans have indicated that it can be serviced. So as far as the utility services, technically it can be serviced. Remember, the school district, they will have to figure out how to address this. So the schools aren't a factor for subdivision development either. But again, we would be coordinating with them. So I would say it's in the master plans, and so but that doesn't mean that they will develop. Something can be in the city. There are properties in the city right now that aren't developed, and may never develop. I will actually just say the comments are starting on page 454, I believe, of your packet. Just if you're looking for those.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get that far. It's just
what
I've been reading for days.
And then Jennifer, did you want to add anything to what I just said?
I just wanted to add that there are lots in the city that are not able to be built because there's not enough sewer capacity. That's happening right now. So you probably aren't aware of it because they come to a pre-application meeting, and then Public Works comes to the meeting and says we don't have enough capacity for a certain area of the city.
Yeah, line size, not capacity.
Excuse me. Yes, line size. So what I'm trying to say is that.
So you are saying that we can't service all of our property in the city, though?
No, the system, the line. So maybe there's not a sufficiently. Barry can probably chime in better than I can, but certain areas of the city need upsizing the line. That's not an overall capacity issue. That's sort of like a street. This street needs to be widened before development can happen. This intersection needs to be widened. That's at time of development consideration, but the overall plan can accommodate what's in there. Okay. Barry, help me out.
No, I get that. I guess I just have a hard time saying yes to new people coming in when we can't give services to people who live here for one reason or the other. Okay, I do have a question though. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I want to clarify, that's people not wanting to extend the services, people not wanting to upgrade the lines. There could be capital projects that we haven't invested in, but if this area is going to develop, for the most part, it's going to be the applicant that's making the improvements. So it's different than inside the city not being able to do certain things. And I guess I just want to really caution you. And we did ask Ross if he could be here this evening. He had a conflict, but we did get some information from him as well. But council needs to make their decision based on the criteria, which is what's in the plans, what can theoretically be dealt with based on what is in the plans, and then at development, that's when the rubber hits the road, where you actually have to make sure that you have the improvements and the mitigation for traffic or whatever, and that's generally on the developer.
Okay.
Any more questions? Councilor Carey, go ahead.
Jordan, just to ease your mind just a little bit. When I was a transportation manager, the ODE has a lot to say about the transportation needs. And Portland State will also do a growth analysis if the district asks them to come down and survey the growth of that area. So the need for transportation is something that is a district and Oregon Department of Education thing. And they'll determine that for us.
Okay, Councilor Sims.
I had a question for Jennifer. So this development, how's it cherry stemmed? Is Golf Lane go into that subdivision, or I know Shaft Road's right there, but I mean Golf Club Road, sorry. But there's the Golf Lane collector. Does that reach that development?
Golf Lane is a project in the future that's noted in the transportation master plan. There's definitely a planned corridor that goes from Golf Club Road to Golf Lane where it currently is. I don't believe it's necessary for this annexation. The annexation connects by Golf Club Road.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, I was just curious where the outlet. I know we can't think about traffic yet, but we haven't had the traffic studies, but you know, if it's all going out on a 50-mile-an-hour highway there, that could be a challenge.
All right, anybody else from council?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Councilor Ort.
I apologize. I did not get to the back to see these comments, so thank you for having them in here. So if this has already been answered, sorry about that. But for the room, okay, hold on. Did the county comment on whether or not we would have to take over maintenance of that section of Golf Club Road that we're annexing in? Like they did with us with Fern Ridge.
They did not mention this, but we do have county-owned roads within our city. So I believe that it would be dealt in the same way.
Okay. And then I have, a follow-up question to that. Will we have to take people's property in order to widen the road?
That is one question that I asked of Ross, and because I said, well, won't they have to because of development? And he said that is the developer's issue, that they will need to get that road, the enough right of way that is required. but at annexation, they do not need to have that. I believe it's 60 to 100 right of way, and some of the right of way is not that big. And so I brought that up to Ross, and he said, as part of the annexation, it's just going to be the right of way that exists. And like I said, when the developer develops and we require that much right of way, they will somehow have to get that. And we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it as a city. It's going to be up to them, the developer.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I told you I had a lot of questions. I warned you.
It's okay. We'll have a second opportunity as well. So go ahead.
Okay. So, we cannot take traffic conditions into consideration. Is that correct? So golf club and Shaft Road with our non roundabout, the way that it is right now, annexing in 59 more acres with whatever goes on it, like, is not an issue.
I hear you. It isn't. It will be when any development comes. So any subdivision is going to have to solve that issue. As I mentioned, that they submitted a subdivision with the annexation, and I did have conversations with Marion County. They were very concerned, but then the applicant withdrew the subdivision. But there will be a need for many upgrades to develop it, and that will come into play when they ask for subdivision and on the cost of the developer. And they will have to prove that through traffic studies at that point.
And none of that was tripped when we built that apartment complex?
I was not here when it was approved, but it must have had a traffic impact analysis to move forward.
Okay.
I'm going to clarify that. So there is also proportionality, and I think that with the apartment complex, they did provide some additional right of way. They provided some additional road, and there was some road widening at the intersection. So there were upgrades that were done that were triggered by that development, just not the full intersection, because there's one development that's not proportional for one developer to do that. Or that, at least it wasn't proportional for that one developer to do that.
Okay. I'm going to, counsel, hold your other questions to the second opportunity. I'm going to move to public testimony. And we'll start with the gentleman online with Carl. And in this case, I'm going to allow 5 minutes on this one. So go ahead.
And you can hear me.
Just a moment. We're going to have you keep talking, but your testimony time won't start until we make sure we can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Test.
Keep going.
Okay. You can hear me.
I can hear him a little bit.
We can hear you, but if you could talk louder, that would be great.
Yeah. Let me see if I can turn up my volume here just a bit. Maybe that'll help. Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay. Let me talk real loud and everything. Raise your hand if you can't hear me in that. But Mayor, city councilors, and staff, my name is Carl Gomal, and I reside at 12174 Gulf Lane, Sublimity, since 1985, with Mill Creek running through my pastures. Because my time is limited to 3 minutes tonight, I ask that you follow along with my updated slides that I provided the city recorder today. This is different from those in your packet, and I urge you to read my full written testimony submitted to the public record, which also is different. That document contains the complete math and legal facts proving our current housing surplus, over $45 million infrastructure deficit, and $2.3 million school shortfall, and exactly why this cherry stem continuity violates the intent of law. Please look at slide 1. While I support growth, I oppose speculative growth in the Mill Creek Basin that our current taxpayers cannot fund. I will show you how this application fails criteria A, need, criteria B, continuity, and criteria C, serviceability, specifically as it pertains to financial impact. Please look at slide 2. I'm looking at one current annexation at Phillips Estates and 4 future annexations totaling 126 acres and approximately 1,242 proposed dwellings. Annexation is like adopting land. It triggers heavy operational parenthood duties where the city becomes the primary responder for police, fire, paving, and utility maintenance, regardless of development. Regarding criteria B, continuity, the 1,000-foot cherry stem fails the test of rationality. It is an inefficient delivery of service and requires a center turn lane, seizing land from current residents and disrupting traffic for months, if not years, on our primary artery. Slide 3. The city relies on outdated 2030 inventory, assuming 1.7% growth. Yet the US Census proves our actual growth is only 8%, barely half of that prediction. We currently have 269 unit housing surplus. When we add 29 dwellings from the Phillips estate, we will only need 25 more houses to meet our erected 2030 goals. We do not need 1,242 new units. This is purely speculative. I would also like to point out that this land is all farmland to the east and the west, and only the south is residential. By annexing this land, we eliminate that farmland regardless of whether it's developed. Slide 4. Stayton has had zero industrial growth for over a decade. 82% of our workforce commutes and spends their tax dollars in other cities. Residential growth is a net negative for our budget. Without commercial subsidies, we are simply digging a financial hole for our general fund. We need commercial business to fix our budget, but we'll never bring them in until we fix the $2.8 million Shaft Wilco roundabout. I would also like to point out, slide 5 and 6. Our 2009 stormwater plan documented a $26 million backlog that is overgrown. Adding these developments bring the total backbone infrastructure needs to over $45 million. This includes 4 on-site detention basins that are completely unfunded in the city budget. Slide 7. Mill Creek capacity is already failing. The channel at Golf Club Road is mathematically capped at 1,360 cubic feet a second, with 10,200 cubic feet a second entering the basin as it pertains to the 100-year flood plan. The 1,360 cubic feet per second cap is exceeded even in the 10-year flood plan, with 6,290 cubic feet a second entering the basin. Existing developments already flood our pastures on Golf Lane, the golf club, the golf course, and the Golf Club Road farmlands at least twice a year. This rarely happened prior to 2000. The Golf Club Road bridge only has 2 feet of clearance between the bridge and the water. Any debris in the bridge gap would cause a total disaster for anything within the Mill Creek Basin. Slide 8. While the developer claims a 0.088% increase is small, our drainage system is already taxed beyond capacity. If constructed without functional detention, these sites would discharge runoff 10 times higher than the allowable limit. We
Carl,
must enforce, yeah.
I kind of interrupt you. You reached your time limit.
Okay, I only got one more slide there. If you could give me just one more minute.
Wrap it up, please.
Okay, let me go to my conclusion. The application does not satisfy the adequate public services criteria. A public service cannot be considered adequate if providing it financially ruins the city. Specifically, this development aggravates an existing $45 million infrastructure deficit and creates a $2.4 million funding shortfall for our schools. Voters soundly rejected
Okay.
on November
Thank
11th.
you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry I took so long.
All right, Aaron.
Hi, my name is Aaron Frichtel. I reside at 12326 Golf Lane Southeast, Sublimity. I'm thinking about earlier in the program where we had young children talking about how they like livability and they like farmland. And obviously, we're doing something to mitigate that and get rid of farmland and make it less livable. One of the concerns I have is something that recently came to my mind or came to my attention is this collector road that we're talking about that has been alluded to in this meeting earlier that continues from Golf Lane to Golf Club Road. And from my understanding, there had been talk that it was needed for additional ways to get in and out of a community. And this is a stone's throw from my property line. And I already have a very busy highway right now and a very busy frontage road that has a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. And so I'm thinking that there's going to be another one right behind my house, and I'm really concerned about that. But also, something that I've mentioned in previous meetings is that Golf Lane currently does not have a safe way to get onto Golf Lane, and so there needs to be a realignment with Whitney Street. And I don't hear anything that talks about that. What I do hear is that there was a subdivision that was pulled, and now we have basically a blank sheet. And we're asking, the applicant is asking you to approve an annexation of something that you know really nothing about. And I find that very troubling. And I wish that there was a way to marry the two together and have the ability to look at development plans before you annex a property. It has resulted in problems in the past with the Phillips development. There's a lot of opportunity for things to change and things to not go the way that they're originally talked about or alluded to. And I really think that that needs to be something that is directly addressed when you annex property. And I don't know how you change that, but it's something that keeps coming up, and it's something that's very, very concerning. I don't like that there is over. In 2019, they talked about approximately $15 million of improvements just on the roadway, just to do this this collector road, which is called a collector road, which is going to be a major highway through there. And so that's $15 million that I'm not hearing is going to change. The KSD development is not planning on paying for that. This developer has not talked about changing that. And that's a lot of unfunded liability for the city to have to do that, and all the improvements and all of the hundreds of people that will be using those roads to walk on, bike on, as well as drive on. And so I'm very concerned about the safety as it is right now. It's not a safe way to get onto Golf Lane, and that has to change. And then we were always told that that would change with development. And now we're talking about adding another development on that very same road that will add even more pressure and strain to a system that needs to be addressed. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron. Mrs. Frichtel?
Thank you. My name is Deanna Frichtel, and I live at 12326 Golf Lane Southeast. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So I've got some notes, and hopefully I saw some wonderful comments. And I know that a lot of work has gone into this project in trying to deal with different things. So, but I have some questions. I remember being part of the community, what are the traffic needs kind of meetings. And there were some people who were talking about the serious safety concerns on Gulf Lane going down into the city to the grocery stores, that whole area, people trying to turn off, and that the traffic was just intolerable and unsafe in this very serious way. And this would be another 100 more people that would want to be accessing grocery stores. And whether or not you're trying to funnel them over to Cascade Highway, the traffic there going up the hill has also been getting a lot worse and not safe as it stands. So I don't see that adding more into the community from that direction is at this moment a positive. I only see it as a negative on the safety of people. I know the people on our street, I've called several, and nobody was really aware of this road concept that was being proposed, even no matter how late you think it is. It's very concerning for us on that street. And I did hear comments about needing some more commercial, like industries for the community somewhere, so that we can support the housing. But as I've been hearing from different sources, is that people are leaving Oregon, and that the projection of all of those who are coming in has really not been the same. I mean, the numbers, the projection numbers, and the people actually are leaving because of the situations that they're finding themselves here in Oregon. And we want to make this a good community, not another like Portland. Let's get dense housing. I would love to see some of the places, instead of having dense housing, let's do something where there's 2 to 5 acres per home, and let's keep that environment that is a precious resource in Oregon for the houses that we don't seem to need so much. So that's just my thought. But I would like there to be more communication to the neighbors that are affected with Gulf Lane, which they are not at this point. I would like to know, like, if it's been in consideration of how many houses the vacancy numbers currently, and I think that was spoken about. Like, there is a lot of vacancies right now, and keeping that in mind when people are looking at what were the projections in 2013. The water use for landscaping. I know in California they recycled their waters, but that's a lot of pressure just to have extra water that we don't have. And the cost for our water system going through Stayton seems to be getting higher and higher. And then that would just be used for landscaping as well. And so those were concerns, and not just the pressure of the community, of the people, but of all that landscaping. Thank you. Thank you for addressing the water and sewer concerns. That was something. So thank you very much for hearing these different concerns. It would be good to really have the understanding what's going there, because the impact, if you have one farmer farming and it is annexed into the city, my understanding is that it's not used, it can't be used quite the same, potentially. So maybe I'm just speaking out of ignorance, but anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you signed this, but I think it's because the applicant, right? Okay. All right. That concludes public testimony. We'll move on to questions from the council once again.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Hayes.
I want to bring up again the work session we had in regards to our wastewater treatment plant. with many concerns brought to our attention, things that needed to be fixed and such. And though I'm hearing if we annexed it, it can handle it. My problem is whether it can handle it or it's assumed that everything is in place to where it will handle it. My problem is what ifs, and the what ifs aren't funny and concerning to me. And with that, when and how are they getting fixed? Are we going to be forced to fix them when we don't have the money for it, or are someone going to provide it for us? If
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Applicant summary.
Okay, I do have a question.
Sorry. Go ahead, Council Ort.
So one of the questions is, does annexing this in at medium density, where's my thing, meet the characteristics of like the surrounding area? Can we have some information on and speak to that? Because I know, so we have single family homes, duplexes and triplexes, but if I recall when we were annexing in on Fern Ridge, that if we did medium density, that there was an opportunity to slide in some apartments, which I'm not for. We don't need any more apartments at this point in time. We need people who want to buy homes here if we're going to build homes. So can you speak to that and how that characteristic falls in with the surrounding territory?
Okay, so medium density allows for single family, duplex, and triplex. Nothing larger than triplex. So no big apartment buildings. And in regard to the surrounding neighborhood, I look at that as residential. So I think of medium density and low density. The comprehensive plan has designated that area as residential. So residential fitting next to residential, not necessarily medium or low or high. If that and our needs, I have the numbers. According to our comp plan, which I know says that we're going to have so much growth that we didn't have, but it does say we need single family and duplexes.
Any other thing else?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Ort.
I do have more questions. I know, on the question.
This is the process. It's
I
fun.
do have more questions, but I am just getting a little stumped with even a comment that was made, because I'm thinking back to when we were working on the annexation for, and Alyssa, you were there for that, for Fern Ridge, and we had, we specifically asked, I think maybe it was even you, we specifically asked for what the plan was, what they wanted to do there, because it can be switched up and changed, but we made them go back several times because we wanted to make sure that it was in fitting with the character. If we were going to annex this in, that it was fitting with the character of what we were wanting there. And we made them go back because there was a couple apartment complexes, and there were the streets were more narrow, and I mean, I don't want to necessarily get into the nitpicky about that, but I do remember us kind of going through this, and I think it is a little hard for me to say yes, let's annex this in without knowing. It's almost like having to receive a package and not knowing what's inside of it. and then being like, we're going to put something in it later on. That's how it feels. I know that's not a question, but that I guess I'm curious why the subdivision was pulled. That was my question.
Well, I can answer a couple things. So the applicant has the ability to submit a concept plan or not. So in the case of Fern Ridge, I'm sure they submitted a concept plan and then you were able to talk about it. I do want to say that if it's annexed and they come for development, a subdivision, it will go before the Planning Commission. And then as a city council, you're able to call those up. So you would be able to, talk about those things when development comes. I believe that I don't want to exactly speak for the applicant, but I think that they did, they weren't sure that they were going to go forward with all, because it is a pretty big property, and they weren't sure if they were going to go through with the whole thing. And so that they just withdrew the concept plan.
Councilor Patty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to go back to Councilor Ort's question, and this is just because I remember being there for this. I thought, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, were we doing a comprehensive plan map amendment at that time too when we were looking at the Fern Ridge? Okay. Staff's all shaking their head. They don't remember. They weren't here. It's not their fault. Okay. Never mind.
I will say, so Jennifer and I did, I think, watch that meeting. I don't recall there being a comp plan amendment, but maybe there was. But I'll just, and I was kind of whispering to Alyssa because, obviously we weren't here at that time, or Jennifer and I weren't here at that time. But I guess sort of case in point, I think they did submit a concept plan, or it sounds like they did, but they're not going to, the annexation wasn't contingent on that. So that land is annexed into the city, and it's going to develop how it develops. And so they showed you a plan that you felt comfortable with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they ultimately were going to build, or even if they got approval, that doesn't mean that they're going to, you can get land use approval for a subdivision and then let it expire. So just because you have some semblance of this is what it's going to be, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that. And using your analogy with your package, I think in this instance, I guess the analogy is that, yes, you don't know exactly what's in the package, but you know that it's toiletries. you know that it, like you know some parameters of what it is because it's residential. It's going to be, if it's annexed in it as medium density, it's going to be medium density. So conceptually what it's going to be. It's not a complete blank slate.
Councilor.
So to your point, Jennifer, when this, like, the plan starts happening, the subdivision, it's only going to go to the Planning Commission unless we pull it up. It's not going to come towards us or to us, because I think that is probably one of our biggest problems, is that we annex it in, and then our Planning Commission, we're not on the same page on what we want something to look like, because I feel like they should know what we want something to look like. So I've got to watch it like a hawk to be sure that this comes before me, or it might pass me up. I'm being honest. I got a full-time job. I'm not watching every single Planning Commission meeting.
So I think that's why one of the reasons we had the joint meeting with the city council and the Planning Commission is to get people on the same page. But after a decision is rendered to the Planning Commission, I don't know if you noticed, but within 3 days, I have to send out a notice to to city council and to planning commission and to the applicant and to anyone who's commented. And at that time, that's when the city council can call it up. So if you are concerned, which I understand that you are, we only have monthly meetings of the planning commission. So I would just look for after that.
Okay. Let's hold the rest of the council questions for deliberation, please. I'm going to go with the applicant summary.
So I'm sorry, just a point of clarification / order. If you have questions that the applicant may need to know and answer,
Sure.
so they should ask them now rather than waiting until after the applicants had their final say. So maybe questions that you want to be answered by either staff or the applicant versus deliberative questions.
Okay, I do have a question. Sorry, I've been looking at this map and I can't figure out, in some places it looks like there are 2 entrances and exits. In a lot of the maps, it just looks like there's one. I'm a bit concerned about 59 acres, again, whatever goes on it, that having only one like entrance and exit off of Golf Club Road is a little bit concerning to me. Is there two, or is it connecting to Golf Lane? I was a little bit concerned or confused about that.
So I actually think those are questions for the applicant, but I can say
that is a question that I have.
Okay. So the right of way goes up to the first entrance, and then the second entrance or connection, I believe, is an easement. But if the applicant wants to come and talk,
So I would recommend getting all of the council questions and then having the applicant address that when they come up for their final.
Okay, that's one question. What else, council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims.
So I'm looking through the analysis that we have here. For Jennifer, for your review criteria, the way I read it, and I've been to the planning meetings also, but I had a concern with a wastewater treatment plant. That was probably my biggest concern. But it looks like we meet all the requirements for the criteria that we can look at. Is that your recommendation? Because I've read through this a couple times, and everything looks like that that you've explained the criteria really well. It looks like we met all the criteria. I know the concerns are for traffic and pulling out. There's a lot of concerns for that, and I have concerns too. But I don't think we can address that in this venue here. So, but is your recommendation that it has met the concerns for the criteria?
yes. I think I had concerns, and speaking with our city attorney, we fleshed them out.
And I'll add, again, we did reach out to Ross several times, but we got some additional information today. And just to clarify that, if council does not concur with the staff report and the planning commission recommendation, and you want to move for denial, basically you would need to identify why the evidence that's been provided is more persuasive than the applicant's evidence and staff's findings, so that we would have the ability to adjust the findings. So as it stands, the staff recommendation is that it meets the findings. Planning Commission has concurred. If there's anything that has been presented in the evidence this evening that you feel compelling, then you would need to basically direct staff to revise the findings.
I guess I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is that it's on projected false numbers that have never been obtained. Our comprehensive plan is using numbers that have never been hit, and the numbers are insufficient to what the comprehensive plan is addressing. That's the future growth of the city, and we've never been there. So I would ask that council demands that we do a new comprehensive plan, because clearly we're basing our future development of the city on a plan that has no teeth in it.
And interestingly, Ross gave us some LUBA arguments or some LUBA information, and one of them was actually a City of Stayton
I
LUBA
know.
appeal where the city denied an application because they hadn't updated the buildable lands inventory, and it went to LUBA, and LUBA said, no, you can't. You basically have to rely on what's in effect.
Yeah, all the more reason to.
Yeah.
But that's a different subject. We can talk
Yeah.
about that after this. But yeah, all the more reason to look at that and make sure our numbers are in line with what the actual projections are going to be, not some pie in the sky. Grab this number and here we go. So go ahead, council. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to invite the applicant to give a summary unless anybody else has any more questions for him. Okay. Come on up, Mark.
I'm red. All right, good. I appreciate the questions and the discussion that the council has put forth on this matter, and I think that the majority of the concerns that the neighbors have and that the council's put out there will come to the surface to be dealt with during the actual land use application. Now, one of the reasons that we pulled back on that was, one, because we really didn't settle on what the property would actually be when it gets done, because we hadn't invested enough resources in that. We have the applicant has an end user that's interested in developing the property and building on it for conventional single family. That's what they want. Now, Commissioner Order's right. She was here when I brought the Fern Ridge application here. The reason it had a concept plan was because Mr. Fleshman made us include a concept plan. Not because we wanted to, not because we thought it'd be a great idea. He made us do that. And so once we started that process, it did take quite a while to flush through that. But today the rules are different here for you. So if your concern is that by annexing the property, you lose control of what it will be, the way the land use rules work today is a piece of property has to be developed in accordance with clear and objective standards that you as council and the planning commission have already put in place. So if you feel that it will develop in a way that isn't consistent with clear and objective standards, that can't really happen unless you go through an alternate method of using a master plan and a PUD type approach. But the process is already set. You've already got it in place for that. Annexing the property doesn't do a single thing except bring additional tax base into the city. The rest of it has to come along with land use application itself. And that's where you're going to get into the teeth of traffic and facilities. Barry's right. Until you see the development, till you know how many units and what type of development it's going to be, you're not going to know what the impact on the wastewater system is going to be. We know that you have a sufficient water capacity to get there because we're going to bring a 12-inch water line up there. So there's plenty of water to service that. The wastewater problem that you have, as I understand it from what Barry has outlined, is a I&I problem that exists in the older part of town, older lines. And you're going to have to deal with that whether this property comes into it or not. This property will be built using newer technology, newer materials, newer testing than a lot of the older part of town was. And so I don't think that particular issue's going to play out. But you have good staff, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to make us provide the information that's necessary to do that. The issue about drainage, that the testimony that was provided by Clay in here is the details is, as he has it written, is not exactly in conformance with what your standards require. And it's not exactly in conformance with what this preliminary water drainage report that we provided to the city says. In fact, this piece of property today contributes under pre-developed conditions contributes just a little over 4 CFS worth of runoff. That does make its way to Mill Creek. When this development is completed, using your design standards and the criteria that you have here, this property will only contribute 2.97 CFS post-development. That's 1 CFS less than goes there today. So this property will not aggravate flooding problems that pre-exist. The same thing, the Phillips project, as that was developed, has put stormwater controls in there, and it will contribute less water to Mill Creek when it's all completed than that area did in its pre-developed condition. So you have the standards, you have the people that are making sure that those standards are followed. I can attest to that. I've had 3 engineers in the city review my drainage study that we've done for Phillips, and I guarantee you they make sure that they get the answers and that it gets designed the way they need. But I think that the property over off of Fern Ridge is different than this in the fact that the zoning over there was what set in place what kind of development could happen on that piece. It's not conventional single family. That's not the zoning that was in place when we were going through that. So here you have conventional single family. We have a user that wants to build conventional single family, and I think the community needs that. And it's important if you're going to have resources and push towards solving some of the other problems that the community has, growth has to happen because growth is the impetus to solving problems. Stagnation is not an impetus to solving problems. It doesn't happen that way. And so I think that the traffic concerns on Golf Club Road are genuine. We know that. We're going to be doing a traffic impact analysis. It's going to be reviewed by ODOT. It's going to be reviewed by the county. It's going to be reviewed by the city. And they're going to dictate which intersections, what areas we have to study, what kind of impacts we have, and that TIA will establish what's the mitigation that's necessary in order to provide safe and adequate transportation system for this project and how it interacts with the intersections that are identified to be studied, which will be Shaft Road and Golf Club will be one of them. And ODOT will look at the interchange in that area as well. We don't have any plans to connect to Golf Lane. That's not in ours. We will be building a leg of the collector through this project from Golf Club Road to the east that will be available to make its way that way someday. That will happen because it's in your TSP that there's right of way. Let's say right of way is not exactly right, but there's an easement that's been created over the trunk sewer that was created wide enough to accommodate a collector street in the future. So that's been established, and that's going to happen. But if this property gets annexed, then we'll be back here in a relatively short period of time with a concept plan that the planning commission, with a subdivision application that the planning commission can see. And again, I think that your development code that you've established is that subdivision is going to be judged by and how it has to be. And I don't think you should be fearful of what you've put in place. But that if you are, then you have another area that you have to deal with. It's not in the annexation part. It's, do we have to make changes to our land development code so that we have better control or better outcome than what you're going to have? But this is zone residential, showing residential in your comp plan. It'll be zone residential, which is compatible with residential, whether it's an acreage tract that's set to the adjacent to us or not, but it's compatible with that. This piece of property hasn't been farmed for a long time. It may be called farmland, but it's been fallow for quite some time. And in fact, part of that reason is because there is the natural resource area along the eastern side, so it does inhibit being able to make effective use of that property from a farming standpoint. But let me make sure that I've covered the questions, because there were quite a few, but most of them did relate back to the ultimate development. So I've talked about timing. We're planning to come forward. We have a user. So assuming that Barry doesn't throw any roadblocks in front of us from utility standpoint, this project will likely be moving forward at a pretty good pace. The right-of-way, we agree, if there's additional right-of-way has to be acquired along Golf Club Road in order to make the improvements that are recommended as a result of the TIA and the land use actions through the city. That's on us. The city's not going to be the one that has to go out and get the right-of-way. We'll be the ones that have to go through that process to get the right-of-way. Your concerns about school have always been around. I've been in the land development world for a long time, and I've listened to debates about schools a long time in a lot of different jurisdictions. So one of the things that's always interesting about the school process, the way we have it today, is that about 40% of the funding for schools comes from local property tax. The balance comes from the state, and the state distributes that money, and it's federal money and state money. It's distributed to the school districts based on enrollment. So the more students that are enrolled, the more state and federal resources that come into the community to help offset those expenses. So, and I believe that with today's construction costs for development, that the property tax the assessed value that will come in from this type of project today is significantly greater than projects that came in 5 years ago, just because of the increase in the cost of construction and the cost of development that's there. So I think that those impacts from a school standpoint, from the cost of education, will be offset by the added enrollment and by the increase in property tax. Now, that doesn't solve what every school has, which is space problem, but they'll deal with that. So we'll have overall the development is intended when all 59 acres of that property is developed in the way that it can be developed. There'll be more than one connection to Golf Club Road. And there's a state fire code that limits how many lots can be created on a single axis without having to get other exceptions approved, such as sprinkling, installing sprinkler systems and stuff. So there's plenty of things out there that are going to come forward as we move into the development side that'll help, I think, address a lot of the issues and the anxieties that you feel about development on this piece of property today.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Staff summary, Jennifer.
So, as I want to emphasize that the staff's role is to not advocate against or for a particular development, but just evaluating the application against the criteria. And as I mentioned, I know that it's based on building inventory that's old and cherry stem and all our master plans, but I have found that it does fit the criteria. The Planning Commission has unanimously said that it recommends annexation, and when a land use application comes in, we, as staff, we will be looking at all of these concerns, and I'm glad that the public was able to bring them up. Traffic, stormwater, wastewater, water, and many issues that will have to be dealt with. That's my final summary.
Okay, thank you. Before I close the hearing, is there any reason why I need to leave it open? Before I close it, is there any reason why we need to leave it open? Doesn't sound like it. With that, I'm closing the hearing. And we move to council deliberation. Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Yeah, I just want to say, I feel like we've been doing annexation here, or I've been doing annexation hearings off and on for the last 7 years, and I feel like they all sort of go the same way. And I feel like today this one has gone the same way. And Aaron, I think, brought up a really good point. It's really frustrating that we can't consider these things while we're making this really important decision for our community. But at the end of the day, there is annexation approval criteria that we must consider. And unless we want to be case law again that our attorney is citing, then I don't think that we want to go ahead and add criteria or modify how we view whether or not the criteria has been met. And that's just kind of what I'm reflecting on as we sit here.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Councilor Ort.
I just wanted to wait for someone else to say something. I have some concerns about A, needs exist in the community for land proposed to be annexed. We do have land available. We do know approximately what they're going to do with it over on Fern Ridge. That land has not been built on. So I'm not sure that we have actually met this. If we actually need this need in the community I'm not sure that we have actually met that. B, adequate public services, including services such as transportation. We annex this in, there are no sidewalks, there's no bike lanes, there's no safe ways to get to school. And that's a current, like, we annex in this land and that still stands. So people that live there, you can't walk on that road. I'm not suggest it. I still contend that there's water and sewer issues. I mean, everything that we talk about and we hear from Public Works, I still contend that there's issues. And we've even heard that we have issues servicing properties that we even have in the community because of our issues. So I believe because of those two things, I don't think that we've met the criteria. I'm going to be a no.
Okay, thank you. What would council like to do?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Sims.
I move to approve ordinance 26-002, approving the application of Randy Myers Brownstone Homes for annexation, land use file number 16-12/24, as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 26-002, annexing real property located at 9164 Golf Club Road, 9384 Golf Club Road, and 9474 Golf Club Road with a portion of existing public right-of-way along Golf Club Road and changing the zone from Marion County Urban Transitional to City of Stayton Medium Density Residential. Is there any further discussion? Melanie, can you please poll the council?
Counselor Hayes?
No.
Counselor Ort?
No.
Counselor Patty?
My mic's not. Oh, there we go. Yes.
Counselor Carey?
Yes.
Counselor Sims?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, and since that's not unanimous, correct?
Correct, because it's not unanimous, it will come back for a second reading at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, council. Let's move on to general business, and that would be letter E, resolution number 26-007, authorizing a change order with Canyon Contracting, Inc. for the construction of reinforced concrete valve chamber to house the 30-inch water treatment facility intake isolation valve. Barry, I guess, or yeah, Barry?
Yes, Barry.
Or Julia? Or Barry? Barry.
Oh, excuse me. Council Mayor Barry Buchanan, Interim Public Works Director. This issue is concerning the construction of the 30-inch installation of the 30-inch valve at the water treatment plant for the raw water supply. We've discussed it in quite a bit of detail in our work session. We've discussed it once or twice here in council before. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail as far as the project is concerned, but I will give you a summary and then answer the questions that have brought this from the concession agenda to the general floor. So the project essentially was put together about 5 years ago. And at that time, the funds were not available to, in actual fact, move forward with the project, even though it went out for bid and we received a low bid to, in actual fact, be accepted. At that time, we purchased the valve and put the valve into storage. During the recent turn down of the water supply, due to the flood condition, we looked at the opportunity of installing the valve immediately. So that we could actually take advantage of the pipeline being drained down and the water treatment plant being offline. At that time, I looked at the overall price. Originally was roughly $169,000. We knew that the valve had come off that and a couple of other things, and it came down to about $117,000 once we got a new price put in our pocket. That did not include the concrete construction. The reason that it didn't include the concrete construction at that time, Canyon had changed their concrete supplier and did not have a fixed price for the concrete work at the time. I believed, wrongly as it's turned out, that the concrete work would come in under the $169,000 as originally anticipated. The concrete work plus the pipe work installation would come in under that, but it didn't. What we're doing with the $117,000 was putting in place the work that needed to be done immediately by Canyon Construction so that, one, we could get depth on the pipe, and two, we could get true diameters on the pipe, because it's a concrete spiral wound pipe that goes from the water treatment plant. They have an odd diameter on that. We needed to know what it was to buy fittings so that we could actually put the pipe in place. So we moved forward with that 117, which was within Julia's city manager's signing capacity without having the concrete construction price in hand. The concrete construction price came in later at $81,000, which took the price over the $150 allowance when we combined the two pieces together. We could have actually moved forward and let out 2 contracts for this, but in reality, I wanted Canyon Construction to be totally responsible for the job. We combined the 2 numbers together, and it comes out at $181,000. I think that I've got the number right. I need 198. Sorry, I got it the wrong way around. The $81,000 was for the concrete work itself. And so what we're doing today is asking for your agreement for us to do a change order from $117,000 to $198,000 to include the concrete work so that we can complete and finish the job.
Hey, Barry, I have one question. In your staff report, it says, the funding originally assumed to be available for the project was ultimately not fully accessible for public works use.
Say again, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, so I'll read it again. In the staff report, it says the funding originally assumed to be available for the project was ultimately not fully accessible for public works use.
Yeah.
My question is why?
The original project, I don't know, I wasn't here, Brian. I do not know why the money was pulled, why it was not available at the time that the project went forward. That was 5-6 years ago when that project was put here together. But I can find out for you if it's.
I was just scratching my head over that. If it's designated funds for public works, then all of a sudden it's not. How?
I think, and I could be wrong, but it might be about the time that we needed the new sand filter or so it might have been that funds were used for something else that was a higher priority at the time, and so they didn't move forward with that project.
All right, that doesn't really, that's not how it reads, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good.
Well, that's my fault on how it reads, Brian.
No worries.
I apologize.
Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Council Ort?
Thank you for the explanation, Barry. I know we've talked about this before, but so this piece of equipment has been sitting since then. I'm just curious. Obviously, we had a change of hands and whatnot, but like moving forward, like what kinds of things can we put in place when we have things like this happen? Like you're saying, the funding didn't go through, but then it was never like brought back. Do you know what I mean? So is there something, are there things that we can do maybe in the future to like not lose sight of something as pivotal as this valve that we're talking about, and to actually like
You've fallen right into my lap. We are currently, as you know, putting in place an asset management philosophy for public works. And we are capturing every asset in an asset register as it stands right now.
so that
Each
person's job will these type
person's
of things will
be
include stuff
captured
like
and
that.
understood.
Okay.
We will know what has been purchased. We'll know what is in store. We'll know which projects are priority. We'll know how that priority is in actual fact being handled. At the moment, we don't have documentation to substantiate that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, council. Are you good with the request, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, it's an expensive several years, 5 or 6 years, but sure. Yes.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yes, because you took it off
Okay.
the consent agenda, you'll need to move
Okay.
to approve the resolution.
Okay. Entertain motions, council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we approve the change order and draft resolution 26-007, authorizing a change order for Canyon Construction, Inc. for the construction of a reinforced concrete valve chamber to house the 30-inch water treatment facility intake isolation valve.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 26-007, authorizing a change order with Canyon Contracting, Inc. for water treatment for the construction of a reinforced concrete valve chamber to house the 30-inch water treatment facility intake isolation valve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Julia, communication from city staff.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with just acknowledging that you've had a couple of very long-winded titles that I will work with staff to see if we maybe can not make those quite so long for you guys in the future. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I just got my SEI notice, Statement of Economic Interest notice, and I'm guessing that you guys did as well. Just a reminder that council members need to fill out the SEI. If you did not get a notice or an email, please let Alyssa know and she'll make sure that you get what you need. I sent you guys an email, but we've got some out here as well. We've got our adventure log for spring break. I feel like every year it gets like fuller and more fun. And I want to thank especially Howard and Melanie for all the work in organizing it. They've added some really fun things in this year's adventure log, including a tour with the Brown House. They coordinated with the Brown House to do that, so that will be kind of fun. And then the Friends of the Pool are hosting a fundraiser. They're going to be playing The Sandlot at the Star Cinema and some other fun, cute things. So wanted to highlight that. And then just to let you know, I'm sure you've heard that the ladies Stayton Eagles won the state championship again in basketball. We also had the Regis girls basketball win in their tier field. I don't know. Clearly not very sports minded, but they won. Yay. And then we've got a few other sports recognitions that we've been hearing about. So we're planning on having an athlete recognition ceremony similar to the student recognition at the April 6th meeting. So excited about that. So it'll be another fun meeting. And I think that's all I've got, unless any of my staff jump up and run to the podium. So.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty?
Yeah. So earlier tonight, I know it was a couple hours ago, I want to remind council's memory. We had a couple presenters come to us and talk to us about the importance of the pool and parks levy. And so in that vein, I just wanted to go ahead and remind you all about the election coming up in May. And then also the Keep Stayton Livable PAC has put forward a statement of support. I'm hoping that everyone can sign the form required to have their name attached to that statement of support. That form is in your email. So please sign and get that back by the 21st of March if you are prepared to endorse the statement.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Sims.
Yeah, I just wanted to advocate for the Parks and Pool levy myself. I mean, we live in an amazing town, and I was really happy to move back here after living in big cities during my working time and working career and living overseas. But I think we have a great town, and I think the pool and the parks are just such important amenities for our small town. And I just hope everybody gets out there and votes, however they feel. But I'm a big advocate for our parks and pool.
Councilor Carey.
I piggyback on that. I'd like to give a shout out to code enforcement this last week, Kendra. She was easy to work with. We have a resident near my home, and we're trying to get some things taken care of for this gentleman who lives there by himself, and get a committee together or a crew together to help him with his maintenance of his yard, so he's not getting tagged with fines. The other thing I'd like to see about is getting on the agenda the lease of the teen center in the next few weeks, month, whatever. Month. Thank you.
Okay. Julia, got that?
Yeah, well, so on that, so generally, agenda items are added with if there's a majority of council. So I guess head nods that there's others that want that. And just in general, discussing the lease, we'll share the lease, and you guys will then, we'll have conversations, and you'll tell me what to do from there. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Hayes, go ahead.
Okay, real quick. Revitalize Downtown. Thought I'd bring up the fact that they are now Historic Downtown Association is their new moniker. There was some discussion on still them wanting a brown sign. They gave me some numbers that they had already looked up, and they seemed good with it. That they'll pay for the signs and pay the rent for once a year on it, and all that seemed all fine and dandy. I'd also just want to mention that it was an open invitation. I went to a presentation by the Historical Society at the Methodist Church, where I had a whole lot of fun looking and mulling over so many old photos of old Stayton, and me being 58 and the youngest one there, and helping a lot of these people, remember this, remember that. But it was fun. They asked me to be a liaison to them. I said, well, if you guys will let me, sure. I can do that along with the Historic Downtown Association. They obviously do not have a museum right now. Numerous things are in storage, some even in temperature controlled, environment controlled, so they don't become destroyed. But just thought I'd bring it up. Don't really have a place or an idea, and there probably isn't really any money for a museum, but unless somebody knows a building and has a thought, but they still exist. They still have all the stuff. And I just keep an eye out on State Community Connections anytime they have a little presentation there if you're curious. Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Ort.
Mr. Mayor, to your point about our comprehensive plan, do we have any? I know we are working on some updates for different plans that we have. Do we have any plans? And if not, can we talk about updating our comprehensive plan that is over 10 years old?
Yeah, I will coordinate with Jennifer on that and see what we can do. I did make notes of that. Right now, she's pretty busy with with annexations. And we don't have funding, but there might be some grants, especially as she talks with the state about the AMI conversation to help us update the buildable lands inventory in that section of the comprehensive plan. So let me connect with her and follow back up with council.
And then, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
today I spoke with Cascade View Christian School out in Sublimity, their high school. They're fairly small, but they had 12 kids, and I went and spoke to them about local government and why it's important and how they can get involved. And it was a really good conversation. And one of the things that we talked about was home rule and how everything that is not, stated in the Constitution that falls to the federal, state, county, and then to us is home rule. And I'm just reminded again tonight that is unfortunately being whittled away a little bit at a time. And the conversation that we had tonight really just highlights that we are not able to get answers to questions that we have or base our decisions on things that are important to us as our community. And that, even though we're up here and we have to make a decision on that, it's not even always, we can't even always vote the way that we want to because we have certain criteria that we are beholden to that isn't, that we didn't choose. And so my hope is that some people can understand that when we make choices that they're not always things that we necessarily want, that it is things that we have to do because we're told by other people who don't live in our community. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Julia, I have a question. So when a piece of property is annexed in, how quickly are the residents in that particular piece of property citizens?
Well, I guess technically it's a little bit more complicated. Once you vote on it and the ordinance is passed, it's sent to the Secretary of State and basically all the local, the county assessor, the Secretary of State. Once all of those have received it and acknowledged it, so I guess it depends on, like, if you're talking about voting, once the elections office has updated their information, which should be fairly quickly, the assessors, basically that they're not assessed until I think it's like the October of whatever year that is. So depending on when the annexation takes place, they don't get automatically added to our tax rolls. I guess they're added to the tax rolls the next time the assessment is done.
So if a current homeowner in that potential area of annexation has lived there for a long time, and the council decides to annex that piece of property, and they become a resident of the city, are they eligible to run for office?
I believe so. I'm looking at my elections. Well, Alyssa says you have to reside in the city for a year.
Right, but they have been.
Yeah, that is a question that we would need to consult on, because because they haven't moved. They've stayed in the same spot. Yeah, that's a great question that I don't know the answer.
So if you could check that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Just curious. To the levy, the Parks and Pool levy. Fantastic presentation from the community so far tonight. I get the feeling all the time that there's a lot of confusion about the non-residents that use our facilities. And I keep seeing on social media that, oh, you guys got to support the pool and the parks because we use them. That's great. You use them. Why don't you come and cut a check to the city? There's nothing precluding anybody coming down that doesn't live in the city that uses our facilities that want to support the pool and the parks to come stroke a check and give it to finance. And so I just want to make sure I got that out there, right? There's no reason they can't do that. James, how much money have you received so far to that? Anything? Oh, that's what I was wondering. Okay. Just want to make sure we get that out there. I appreciate Councilor Ork talking about the code. The comprehensive plan revision. I was passionate about it tonight, y'all, because I think we're taking a fictitious number that we've never achieved to develop or to show the future of our city, and I think we have to do better than that. And so I'd like to see that comprehensive plan changed, and maybe we don't use the University of Portland State University metrics. It's never produced anything. And then the last thing, Julie, is I'd like to see us do a code revision. We haven't done any code revision for a long time as a city, and there's so many inaccuracies in the code. I know it's another thing to put on your plate, but I think the community, I think we owe the community that. There's so many different pieces in there, and I think we've talked about little tiny things like my house numbers on my house right now don't meet code because they're not reflective. Those types of things that are on there. I have to get a license to ride my bike. What? So I think I would like us to start looking at the code revision at some point. Seriously, it's in the code today. So we could put that on the docket at some point to start looking at that. I think that's all I got. Yeah, thanks for all your patience tonight. Input. Meeting adjourned.